Once again, we have a film debuting with more glaze than a donut, with a Rotten Tomatoes score that breaks the charts and sets the new franchise all-time high, with 28 years later coming in at like a 95 or 96%, something like that. And I'm just going to tell you right now, sports fans, I don't think that score makes a whole lot of sense for this film. I don't think it lives up to that level of hype. But we're in this era now, where anytime something good comes out, it seems like everyone has to push it to be like the highest rated thing. I just yapped about this with Predator Killer of Killers, which also had the all-time high for its franchise, even though I think it is not the best in the franchise, certainly not in like the deep 90s, almost perfect film. It was a good movie, I liked it, had plenty of flaws. I feel the same way about 28 years later. Good movie, I liked it, plenty of flaws. Let's just dive right in here. Time to get into the fucking spaghetti and the meatballs. I don't know if it's a hot take, because I don't really know how people are going to respond to this film, because it does seem like there's a lot in here that is meant for critics to enjoy and like kind of pick apart in terms of like its editing. It has like really fast-paced, very abstract editing, and like symbolism obviously very deeply weaved into a lot of its shots. And I don't know how that's going to land with a lot of audiences, because a lot of times the things that they set up there, like those little building blocks, they never actually finish constructing anything out of it. So they'll just show you like an abstract scene and then really not have that build to anything or actually have any like emotional tie-in to anything. It was just kind of like a odd, peculiar moment for the sake of it, it feels like. Best example, without getting into spoilers, I'm gonna get into spoilers in a little bit. Without getting into spoilers, there's like this thing the film does quite a bit in the beginning, where it's like splicing old 80s and 70s footage in, like, or like medieval footage, where they're like shooting arrows, and it's meant to parallel the society that we follow in 28 years later, where they're also shooting arrows. And it's like, okay, I get it, but what the fuck did that add? Like, I guess it's creative to have it go like side by side and fade into each other, but it's kind of just goofy. You just have like this old footage of like people in Party City costumes shooting bows and arrows for this old footage that we're splicing into this movie for the scenes they're shooting arrows. Like, I get it. Just kind of lame though. The weirdest editing sin this movie commits that I really can't understand the thought process behind was it'll do these, not bullet time, because it's not bullet time, they don't like slow-mo the arrows being shot, but there'll be numerous times in the middle of a fight, they're fighting off Infected, shooting arrows at it, and they'll get like a headshot, so like Jamie headshots an Infected. It'll zoom in and freeze, so the headshot hits and then freeze, and then it'll change camera while it's still frozen, and then the body will hit the ground. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, I felt like I was about to see like a fucking Scott Pilgrim comic book effects pop up on screen going, blam, boom, kablooky, kersh, that kind of stuff. Like, it was really weird and just felt out of place. It felt like he wanted to have some quirky editing in this film for the sake of being zany. That's not to say that all of those editing decisions are bad. There's some really cool shots in here and some very creative editing, but I do think there was this like fixation on trying to make everything kind of abstract and a bit odd. And I feel like that's there for critic bait more so than it is for a normal audience enjoyment. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of people are gonna really like the bow and arrow bullet time moments. Like, maybe they want to see like that Call of Duty final kill cam. Just wasn't for me. I just thought it was kind of silly. But anyway, like I said, I do like the movie. I think it is a good movie. Great performances across the board. Spike is the main character here. He's the son of Jamie, and Spike is going on a big quest to try and get his mother some help because she is sick and he wants to save her. And we follow his journey from getting his first kills in the mainland to then braving it all himself to save his mother. And I really think that it is a very compelling, very emotionally charged journey that they nail. Now, when it comes to its story, I will mention it seems like they have completely wiped their ass with 28 weeks later. I don't know if it's been fully retconned or what. I don't understand how 28 weeks later fits into what we see in 28 years later. But maybe they'll explore it more in the sequel to try and make the puzzle pieces fit a little better, but it feels like that's been abandoned, and it's following something pretty different here in terms of the lore of the 28 Days universe, which is fine, because in the context of this film, it works. I think it works really well. We get to see some very new things to the franchise that I think hit. I think the action was good, even with the bullet time silliness. I think they did a really great job at making every scene with the Infected intense. We see a bunch of different Infected, some fat ones, some fast ones, and even the Alpha. Alpha was very cool. I thought the Alpha Infected that they showed off a couple times was an absolute banger. He even had a signature move. For some reason, the Alpha Infected love ripping people's heads off and like keeping their vertebrae and everything intact to use it as a weapon. Actually, shit you see out of Mortal Kombat. That is literally a fatality in Mortal Kombat, and that was his anime finishing move that he loved to utilize. It was cool. Every time that they had to fight off the Infected, they did a great job at making it very, very intense. Like, times where you think they're getting away, maybe not. Times where you think there's no way out of it, there probably isn't. Like, they do a really fantastic job at getting you like on the edge of your seat when the Infected are on screen. And they're on screen a lot. It's not like they take a back seat to everything else. They are front and center for the most part. So I was happy with the film. I did like it. But I do want to get into my big time complaints here, and to do that, I'm going to have to get into spoilers. This is your big spoiler warning. Huge spoiler warning. Here it is. And now it's over. This movie's tone shifts drastically numerous times. It feels like there were conflicting ideas for what this film should be, and instead of trying to meet somewhere in the middle to try and like work them together, they just fucking shoved them together and said, fuck it, we'll do it live. It doesn't matter if it like works super well. Like, it's not cohesive is what I'm trying to say. What I mean by this, you have the first half, which is very intense, and it's a little on the slower side, of course, outside of like the big intro where you have a lot that happens, but then it gets a little slower as you get more of the pieces set up, and then you'll have this really great journey, and then when you have the Infected come in, it's very intense. You're seeing him, Spike, get his first kills. The sound design is really good, like all the weird sloshing and gurgling noises from the Infected is unnerving. Everything is great there. And then you get to like the second half of the film where they try and do something a little different, where they have this side plot with a pregnant Infected, and then they meet this doctor, and the doctor I think is a good character, but it does kind of come out of nowhere here, and it is a bit of a weird thing to throw in, but he has some very moving moments in this movie, some very moving moments, and this doctor's talking about the magic of the placenta and this like miracle birth of the Infected baby, or not even really a miracle birth, because he kind of writes it off as like, I kind of expected this to happen. Well, actually, this was something that I had on my bingo card. So like, it's not even that big of a deal to him, even though the movie's setting this whole thing up as like a big deal, and then the Alpha's hunting to try and get his baby back, and it doesn't really, like, I don't think it did much. It was just like a huge, like, weird tangent from what we've been following with the emotional journey of Spike and his mother. And another thing that adds to this tonal whiplash is this new character they also introduce, which is Eric, who is a soldier who ends up stranded there, and all of his squad is wiped out by the Infected after their ship crashed, and they were doing like the quarantine patrol, but they hit something, they said, and then they washed up on shore and then had to fight to survive. He's the only one that made it. He's making a bunch of jokes, so he becomes the comic relief character, just making wisecracks like, you guys probably don't even know what the internet is here, do you? Primitive. That kind of thing. Because he saves them, and then he joins them, and then he's like immediately killed off, so it doesn't even go anywhere. It just, once again, like changes the whole tone and focus of the movie. It just felt weird to go back and forth like that. But by far, the most egregious problem with this film is its ending. Its ending is, I think it is one of the most surprisingly stupid endings I've seen maybe in the last, like, 5 years. I'm trying to think of something in recent memory stupider than this. I'd put this onto, like, almost Moonfall level of unexpected lunacy. The film ends with, I'm trying to spoil everything here, but the film ends with Spike going through, like, this change. Now, instead of being the scared kid we saw at the beginning, he's gone through so much hardship, he's learned so much after everything with his mother and the doctor, he now wants to be on his own out in the mainland, away from the shelter, to kind of just brave it all on his own and get after it. And it's a decision that I think makes sense for Spike. Like, I think that is a strong character arc. And while he's doing this, he gets attacked by some infected. They come running at him like the Titans from Attack on Titan. He shoots them with arrows, but he's about to be overrun, and then a guy pops out, and he's basically a fucking cartoon character. The guy pops out, his name's Jimmy, and he's like, great shooting, Tex, but I think there's a little too many for you. Mind if we step in? And I shit you not, he summons the Power Rangers. He summons ninjas. And what they do is they come in with melee weapons like spears and like even doohickeys, like gadgets that'll like Goku Gadget extendo weapons, so they'll make like a chain in between there, and they just start like meleeing all of the infected. Not just meleeing, they're doing like an acrobatic showcase. It's like a Cirque du Soleil performance. So they're like jumping off walls, they're doing flips. They're literally doing flips while killing them. And they're doing like somersaults, and then when they finish, oh, and not only that, they have like a metal music playing. I'm using that lightly. It's basically just some chugs on the guitar, and it's supposed to be the Teletubbies theme. And then when they finish it off, they do a pose, which is this. They go ha like that. They all do that pose, and they're all named Jimmy. So it's a cult, and this cult is something that was a seed that was planted throughout the movie with Jimmy. You see his name on a building once, and in the very beginning of the film, the opening sequence with the kids where they get slaughtered by the infected. Those kids are these individuals. So the idea is they are likely infected, so they're enhanced, and now they are this cult that is recruiting Spike into their ranks. The theater was giggling when this was happening. It is so out of nowhere and so different from everything this movie had been doing up to this point that it just felt like a joke. It was a weird decision to end the movie with that. I really don't understand why. And like, it doesn't make me hype for the sequel, because if that's going to be the energy of the sequel, it's really not why I like the franchise. I don't really want to see them doing somersaults and backflips and hitting karate and kung fu on infected. That just, I don't know, it's dumb, I thought. I thought the ending was just terrible. Like, I thought it was really terrible. It doesn't ruin the movie for me or anything. Like I said, I still really do like 28 Years Later, but it was very different than what I was expecting. In some ways, positively, but in quite a few ways, negatively as well. I definitely don't think it's the best in the 28 Days Later franchise. I definitely don't think it's a 95 or 96% on Rotten Tomatoes level of quality here. I think it was good. I think it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And yeah, that's really about it. Yep.